Job, chapter 21. That's the book before Psalms. One fellow said, boy, I like that book of Job. Well, you know, this Baptist preacher arrived at church one early Sunday morning and found a dead donkey on the sidewalk. He didn't know who to call, so he finally called the mayor in town. The preacher told the mayor about the dead donkey. The mayor listened, and then there was a long silence, and then the mayor said, well, isn't the preacher's job to bury the dead? And the preacher thought for a while, and there was a long silence, and then he said, yes, but I thought I'd notify the nearest of kin. I didn't write it, I just tell it. Job chapter 21, would you stand with us? Job asked a question. Nobody ever suffered like Job did other than Jesus Christ. In Job chapter 21, we'll begin with verse 7, through verse 15. And Job asked this question after all the suffering he went through, and we'll go through that. He asked, why does God allow the ungodly to live and prosper? Why does it? In verse 7, wherefore do the wicked live and become old, grow old, yea, and are mighty in power? The wicked grow old, mighty in power. Their seed is established in their sight with them, and their offspring before their eyes. Their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. Though their bull gendereth and faileth not, their cow calveth and casteth not her calf. They send forth their little ones like a flock, and their children dance. They take the timbrel and harp and rejoice at the sound of the organ. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? That's their attitude, and yet God lets them live and lets them prosper. Father, help us as we study your word together this morning to better understand some things that puzzle all of us. We'll give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. You may be seated. Now let's study the background for these verses. If you would, turn back to Job chapter 1 with me. Beginning, Job's knows that he has lived a faithful, clean, separated life for the Lord. And he wonders why he has suffered so much and the wicked all around him prosper. And something is going on here that Job has no understanding of and doesn't know anything about it. Job chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? There's none like unto him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth or shuns evil. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him, about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But you just put forth your hand now and touch all that he hath, and he'll curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. only upon himself put forth not thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. Notice verse 12, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, thy hand, only upon himself, his very person, put forth not thy hand. Did you notice God gave Satan the authority to test and try Job like no other human being had been tested and tried? Job woke up one morning, and one servant comes running in and says, the Sabians have come in from the south. They killed all your servants except me. They've taken your oxen and your donkeys. By the time he gets through speaking, another servant comes in from the west and says, the fire of God, evidently lightning, has burned up all the sheep and all of your servants except me. And by the time he gets through talking, from the north the Chaldeans come in. The servant says, they've killed all your servants and taken all your camels. By the time he gets through speaking, another servant makes him aware of the fact that Job has 7 sons and 3 daughters that are all together in one house. A great wind sweeps through like a tornado and kills all 10 of his kids at the same time. Verse 20 and 21 is Job's reaction. Job arose, rent his mantle, shaved his head, fell down upon the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked came out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Now you can just imagine, Job looks around him and sees all these wicked people. And these people who come in and kill his servants, God permits that. They're wicked people. Job is an honest, upright man. And God permits all this to take place. Satan comes back in chapter 2 before God again. Verse 4, Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, and yea, all that man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, touch his bone and his flesh, he'll curse you to your face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he's in your hand, but save his life. In other words, you can test him, but don't kill him. So when Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot to his crown, he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Can you imagine how he must have felt? He knew nothing of this battle that was going on between God and between Satan. And so Satan smote Job with these boils. He had to sit down in an ash heap and scrub himself with broken pieces of pottery to get some relief, and rub the ashes over his body. If that wasn't enough, look at verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. All this has happened to him, and I can understand how his wife would be upset by losing 10 kids at one time, losing all their wealth, and now her husband's lost his health. He's lost everything. And she says, why don't you just curse God and die, Job? Get out of the way. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. And then we read where Job had three so-called friends that came to visit with him. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Elihu. And basically, for many chapters here, we read where they said to Job, "You must be a hypocrite, Job. What are you doing to make God work against you like this? You must be into something. You must be against God. You must be sinning. What are you doing that's causing God to come against you like this?" And of course, Job chapter 13, verse 15 was Job's answer. "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Now, in the midst of all this suffering, Job asked the questions. Why does God allow the ungodly to live and suffer? And why do all these things happen to me that's tried to live for God? Everybody in this room who is a Christian, at some point in time, these thoughts have went through your mind. Does it really pay to serve God? Why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to go through this if I'm trying to live for the Lord or trying to serve the Lord? I hope that through Job's reaction to what all he went through, that it might help us this morning. God loves you. God's in control. He loves you too much to hurt you unnecessarily. He's too wise to make a mistake. Amen. And he is in complete control of all situations and all circumstances. Amen. And so we simply, whatever we have to go through or going through, we have to believe that it crosses God's desk before it gets to us. And keep our focus on Jesus and on the Lord and not on our circumstances. Amen. The moment we look at our circumstances and take our eyes off of the Lord, then the enemy begins to come in and he'll turn us against God if he can. That's the whole point of this whole story. Satan tells God, you put him in my hands and he'll curse you when I get through with him. Now, why does God allow the ungodly to prosper and to live? Let me give you 3 or 4 thoughts this morning, scriptural thoughts, that'll help you and me to better understand God's nature and what God's about in the world today. The first thought is, God allows them to live and prosper to demonstrate his long suffering. My Bible teaches me that God's not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Amen. God doesn't want anybody to die and go to hell. Amen. And if somebody offends us, our first thought is anger and retaliation. This lady told me one time, said, I don't get mad, I just get even. And that's our attitude sometimes. That, I don't have as much trouble with my actions as I do my reactions. Of course, you folks know, you don't do stuff like I do. You're good Christian people. I was sitting in my easy chair last night and not paying attention to much of anything. And Peggy comes around the corner and trying to tell me something I can't understand. I said, speak up, I can't hear you. And she speaks up again. I said, I can't hear you. And she said it again. And I threw one of my little fits. I threw my TV thing down on the couch. and acting like a preacher, you know. Of course, you folks never do anything like that. And I had to apologize to her and God and whoever else saw me in the house. I don't know who else was there. What do we say? What do we say? We're saying that we've offended each other and we've offended God.
Amen.
I have offended God for years, and you have too. How many times have we offended God? I can imagine an angel up there looking down and saying, how much more patience you going to have with that character? How much more long suffering are you going to have toward this individual or that individual? Just tell me and I'll go down and work it out. I'll fix it. And of course the Lord just take it easy. In my own good time, I'll take care of things. Did you know God has the power to kill every sinner right now?
Amen.
Every one of them. He has that kind of power. But he doesn't do that. He has the power to strike any of us dead at this very moment. Why doesn't he do it? His long suffering. His long suffering. I'm so glad that God was patient with me after my first sin, my second sin, my third sin. I'm so glad he's still patient with me.
Amen.
He's still working on me. He hasn't given up on me yet. I'm so glad he hasn't. Did you know that before he destroyed the world with a flood, he warned them for 120 years? And then, after Noah went into the ark, he waited 7 more days before he shut the door and sent the flood. Why does God allow the wicked to live and prosper? Because he's so long-suffering. He told he has that patience. And I heard about this infidel that in a meeting, spiritual Christian meeting, stood up one night, had a watch in his hand. He said, I don't believe in God. There is no God. If there is a God, let him strike me dead within the next 60 seconds. 60 seconds passed and nothing happened. The preacher looked at him and said, the only thing that proves is God more long-suffering than you have good sense, buddy. And then God allows the ungodly and the wicked to prosper and to live to demonstrate his mercy. In Psalm 136, there's 26 verses in that psalm. And at the close of each verse it says, his mercy endureth forever. John R. Rice was one of my heroes as a young preacher coming up till he went to be with the Lord, and he still is, as far as that's concerned. But he gave a thought on this psalm that really was a blessing to me. He said, I used to wonder why in the world God put the same thing 26 times in one psalm, his mercy endureth forever. He said, I prayed about it and asked God, and God just simply said to me, my mercy endureth forever. That's why he put it in there. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 16 teaches us that the throne of God is a place where we can obtain mercy and find grace. Jonah was told to go to Nineveh and to preach. Repent or perish. And he finally ended up there and he preached and the people repented. He got mad about it and He didn't want to see them repent. That's why he didn't want to go in the first place. But after they repented, he got mad and was pouting about it. And God told him, said, there's 120,000 men and women in that city. They don't know, spiritually speaking, their right hand from their left hand. And here you are, pouting about it because I spared their lives. Listen, God is so full of mercy and grace. And he's extending that mercy and grace to the ungodly today. And then he allows them to live and prosper to demonstrate his power. He told Pharaoh, God told Moses to tell Pharaoh, for this cause have I raised thee up, to show in thee my power, that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. Jesus said, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. God has the power to strike anybody dead, eliminate anybody at any given time, but he doesn't do it to demonstrate his great power, his restraint, even though he has the power. He allows the ungodly to live, and last of all, to demonstrate his justice. Listen, folks, this isn't the end of it. Sometimes I ask the same question that Job asked. Why in the world do you allow this to go on all around us and it seemingly doesn't bother you? And the answer always is the same. This isn't the end of it, preacher. There's coming a day when God's vengeance is going to be poured out, and there will be no mercy mixed with it. There will be no forgiveness mixed with it. There will be no long suffering mixed with it. You and I will live to see the day that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God. There will be no mercy then. There will be no long suffering then. There will be no forgiveness then. And God's restraining himself, withholding his justice until a certain point in time in the future. What is his justice? That is a time when all things will be made right. Everything will be fixed. In Luke chapter 16, we have a perfect example. This rich man was dressed in purple, fine linen, fared sumptuously. Lazarus was a poor man, laid at his gate, full of sores, a beggar. The rich man died, went to hell, not because he was rich, but because he was ungodly and rejected the Lord. Lazarus died and was carried by an angel to paradise. Why? Because he trusted the Lord and had his faith and trust in God. In verse 25, there's a conversation going on. The rich man is begging for a drink of water. Just let Lazarus dip his finger in water, tip my tongue. Abraham tells him, thou in thy lifetime receivest the good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. Let me encourage you this morning, dear Christian. You have put your faith and trust in God. And you do have problems, sometimes severe testing. You do go through times and periods when your heart is breaking and you don't know what you're going to do and you don't know what's going to happen next. But just keep your focus on Jesus, because it's not over yet. And one of these days, Jesus is going to fix everything.
Amen.
And everything is going to be made right. We don't understand it today. We look around us today and the ungodly prosper and they're healthy and all these possessions and all these children, and they have everything, it seems like, beck and call. But it isn't over yet, folks. One of these days, you and I are going to live in a mansion.
Amen.
We're going to walk on the streets of gold. We're going to have a body that'll never die. It'll never feel pain. It'll never feel heartache. It'll never suffer. We'll never have another want again. We'll have everything that we can ever desire in a place called heaven. Yeah, we look around us today, and we're just like Job when we're going through trials and troubles. Why am I going through this? And why am I facing this when I'm trying to serve God? And look around, all these evil people, ungodly, and how blessed they are. Well, it's not over yet. The best is yet to come. If Becky makes some lemon lush, one of my favorites, or lemon pie, one of my favorites. And after I get through with the beans and taters and cornbread, I keep my fork. I don't lay that fork down until I get through with the lemon lush. And best is yet to come, amen. What all you're going through now, what all we're going through now, is going to seem like nothing one of these days. When we get to the lemon lush, amen. Good days are ahead. It's coming, folks. And we'll sure be glad if we just went ahead and lived for the Lord.
Amen.
We'll be glad we did. Would you stand by this prayer?